Hi, my name is Katie Chapman and this is my 4.1 video blog in IDS 403 Preparing for the Future. As promised in my first blog, today I'm going to explore my own digital identity. So what exactly is a digital identity? After completing all the reading and resources this week, I have learned that a digital identity is the identity a person creates for themselves as part of their online persona that is often not a realistic interpretation of their real-world self. So you may be wondering what I mean when I say it's often not realistic. Selfies, for instance, are not a realistic interpretation of yourself. They are a manufactured moment where generally you contort your face and body into a position that appears the most pleasing, which often takes multiple attempts. Another way your digital identity may not be accurate could be the way that you craft all your posts so that they are all cohesive in one interest. For example, some people are truly very into fitness and it is a big part of their lives. Or maybe someone just wants it to appear that way. They work out for 1 hour a day, but every single one of their posts reflects a fully fitness lifestyle. And in reality, it excludes the other 23 hours of the day. Even the way I'm dressed today could technically be viewed as a way of creating a digital identity. Do I generally sit around in a button-up shirt, makeup, and jewelry while doing my homework? Of course not, but it is a way that I can convey to the viewer the seriousness at which I take this assignment, or even my education as a whole. So how is my digital identity different than my real world self, or how is it the same? For the most part, I would say that my digital identity is congruent with my real world self because I do not attempt to portray myself any differently than I truly am, but it is inherently different because each picture is just a minuscule snapshot and cannot possibly give others a full perspective of my life. For instance, the only social media platform I utilize really is Instagram. And by looking at my account, it would appear that I am a major lover of books and my cat Charlie. I love Arizona Coyotes hockey, I travel frequently, and I'm a military spouse. Of course, all of that is true, but it displays only a fraction of my life. So how does technology enable me to fully express a specific dimension of my identity? As previously mentioned, I absolutely love books. I'm an avid reader and I read every single chance I get, which includes walking from my office to the car, running on the treadmill while I make dinner, etc. Because I work full-time and I'm a full-time student, I don't get to read as much as I would probably like, but I do generally read 8 to 10 novels a month, and my Instagram account is a reflection of that. Every book I read, I post a picture of the book along with my overall thoughts or rating and maybe even a great quote from the book. This is a way that I can share my interests with others in the hopes that they will maybe find a book that interests them. I also always tag the Phoenix Public Library as a way to thank them for loaning me dozens of books already digitally for free, but also more than anything to hopefully encourage other people to join the public library and to see that they have thousands of books at their disposal. So how does technology govern, influence, or shape my identity? Technology is very influential at shaping my identity, and I rely upon it heavily. I'm an online student. Nearly all of my job tasks are done online or using some form of technology, and I can easily search online for all the things I'm interested in or want to learn about. Technology also allows me to portray the best version of myself. At my job, all employees are asked to take a personality test called a DISC assessment, which allows us to learn more about ourselves, those we work with, and how we can most effectively interact with each other. Not surprising to me, my assessment determined that I am a style C person, which means I'm analytical, systematic, precise, reserved, and private, to name a few. When presented with something, I like to consider the outcome, all of the outcomes before reaching my conclusion. Because I'm reflective naturally, I generally am not a great speaker unless I have had time to fully consider the topic at hand. I'm a much better writer, and by utilizing technology, I can effectively share my thoughts, which is a way I feel it influences my identity. So how is my digital identity a product of the social and technological context in which I live? My digital identity is ultimately influenced by the members of my social group and the communities I'm a member of, as well as the social institutions such as educational, familial, political, etc. Also, instead of following people I know from high school or people that I work with on Instagram. I instead follow people that post pictures that share my same passions. I follow a bunch of people that are considered bookstagrammers, which means that they post pictures of books exclusively, generally within a certain genre. They share their thoughts and they offer suggestions. A large portion of the books I have read have actually been found this way. So how is my online identity like a performance? Tim Rainer states that when we share online, we are playing to a crowd on some level, and we acknowledge this. Because the crowd consumes the content we share, and if it is favored, it will then be passed on. In other words, he states that the crowd honors the identity that we create by sharing this content. My own identity is similar to a performance because I post pictures in a way that I think will be visually pleasing to other people so that they will take notice and desire to learn more. So in that way, I do alter the way I project my identity. How is my behavior different when I know that it is public? I would say that I do not share anything that's really personal about myself, like any details, when I know that it is public. Also, if I share a picture that I have taken from my vacation, I do not post it until I've already returned home. Also, going back to my previous point about posting things in a way that I feel will be pleasing in some way, that's how I alter my behavior because I know that it's public. That's why I do it that way. I like to keep track of the books I read, which is all done on my Kindle and then automatically updated to my Goodreads account as I progress. This is a way that I can look back on my favorite books, keep track of how many I've read, join communities, and more. So it is not necessarily essential that I then keep a third record of my books on Instagram, but it is in the hopes that I will influence someone else. So how does my digital identity affect my sense of who I am as a person? I would say that my digital identity affects my sense of who I am as a person because I know that I love to read and I do it all the time, but as I post each of the books and a couple thoughts about them, it almost reinforces in my mind that being a book nerd or a bookworm is a huge aspect of my personality. Shirley Turkle, in her TED Talk titled Connected But Alone, essentially states that people use technology to distance themselves but then feel lonely and reach out through social channels instead of forging or cultivating human relationships. In my case, I'm not sure that this is completely accurate as I have always been an introvert, but there are quotes that have come out in the last few years that I love that have stemmed from the evolution of technology and social media. They generally state something to the effect of how draining it is to socialize with someone who is only interested in themselves. Social media is a way that people can get all the attention they crave and block out everything else. It feels quite often that people have become more self-involved due to the attention they receive. My digital identity has been affected has affected my sense of self in that I try to share things that are encouraging, inspiring, or interesting, which of course is subjective. A result of my digital identity I have created is that my friends and coworkers in the real world have told me that on multiple occasions that my books I share have truly inspired them to get back into reading or to do more of it. So in some way, my goal of inspiring others through utilizing my digital identity could be considered at least a small success. Thank you all so much for taking the time to listen to my video blog, and I will be back in 2 weeks to discuss neoevolution. Bye!